Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh, what would happen if your mobile phone killed you?
We are tonight's entertainment.
I would rather watch Beautician and the Beast.
People don't forget.
Made for movies.
This is the Made for Movies podcast. I am your co-host, Eric Russo, and with me, as always, my man, Aaron Wolf. What's going on today?
Not too much, buddy, and not as always. I fumbled and missed last week, but you did such a good job, and you deserve a lot of shout-outs from me for crushing last week's episode, even though I was only there for 20 minutes of it.
Well, you were there for the most important part, which was the Fast Saga, which is one of the most important films in cinematic history. We will give our final thoughts on that franchise today with some box office updates. But we have a pretty busy day today. So very famous movie birthday coming up. Obviously, we have the box office updates. Switching up news today. Going to give you a little more news with some quick hits, as well as our top 3 stories of the week. Speaking of Fast and the Furious, welcome back to the Why Is This Happening Club. This is like that show TRL. Remember TRL? At some point,
Total Request Live.
At some point, we have to retire the Fast Saga from Why Is This Happening? Because it's been like 18 weeks in a row.
TRL used to do 65 days.
Yeah.
And I think we're approaching 900 days talking about Fast and Furious
on this podcast. It certainly feels like it. From there, we both have a couple weekly recommendations, as well as our Loki Episode 5 review. And in the main event today, the Amazon Prime film, The Tomorrow War. But let's just dive into it. And by dive in, I'm talking about the 1991 film released 30 years to this day, July 12th, 1991, Point Break. Wolf, what are your thoughts on this Fast and the Furious ripoff?
The original Fast and the Furious movie, Point Break, will always be one of my favorite action movies, call it what you will, heist movies. Two of the leading men who I wish, number one of them was still alive and producing amazing content. The other one seemingly making up for his friend not being here to make content by making everything. Keanu Reeves, we thank you, we love you. R.I.P. obviously goes to Patrick Swayze. What can I say about this movie other than that? It is entertaining from beginning to end. Some of the worst acting in the world, some of the best acting in the world, and you gotta go down, Bodie. Like, who doesn't love that final scene where they're getting literally just doused with rain and waves for 20 minutes? I feel like this is the worst movie I've ever acted in because I'm cold and wet all the time. But I could go on forever, literally, about this movie. Gary Busey, one of his better roles with Utah, Get Me Too, but it's a wonderful anniversary. 30 years this movie has been gracing our hearts and treating us well.
Yeah, and let's give a shout-out. Catherine Bigelow, ex-wife of James Cameron, director of The Hurt Locker, which won the Oscar, actually beat out James Cameron's for Avatar, thank God, as well as Zero Dark 30 she's done. So she is one of the best directors ever. So the fact that if you had to guess who directed this movie in the 80s, it was a female, that's pretty cool, considering I feel like no women really directed that many big action movies back then. So I think this movie holds up tremendously. I really do. I think that there's a few scenes in this that are so intense, specifically the parachute scene where they know he's a cop and he knows they know, yet they're still kind of hanging out. It just provides like tremendous tension. It's one of the better action scenes as far as tension goes I've seen, as well as the bank heist scene. Just incredible. Like you said, Gary Busey, Utah, Give Me Two. One of the craziest roles. Did he have a script or was he just doing his own thing? We'll never know.
And I think the secret winner of the movie as far as the best role is John C. Reilly. He plays like the captain in the FBI. He's like bossing him around. When he loses his mind, it's the funniest darn thing like ever. He's just like the vein comes out of his head. He's just a beautiful role, and he plays it in like The Rock. He's like kind of the same guy. So
I also
love that little
enjoy.
cameo.
I forget the guy's name, and I'm not seeing it on the IMDb. The one that's undercover in their gang, in the surfer gang.
Oh, Tom Sizemore.
Tom Sizemore, and then John C. McGinley as the other officer is also really, really good. So many recognizable faces in this movie, and a movie that's probably better today than it was in 1991. So I assume it'll continue to age like fine wine. Hopefully we get a Keanu Reeves Fast and the Furious appearance, which would be as Johnny Utah running.
Oh, as Johnny Utah?
Forget
about it.
Running some sort of crime agency that is trying to steal a chip that runs the universe or whatever next MacGuffin they come up with. But I think it's time to score this thing out. That'll be a new thing we do on these old classic movies. Wolf, what is your score for Point Break?
It's really one of those things that just brings you back. How well it's held up, the general storyline. It's thrilling. It's intense. It's a 9.5 out of 10.
Nice.
It is all day long, rewatchable. Like you said, you could watch it in 1991 or 2021 and be entertained. It doesn't rely too much on like technology, so we're not even missing cell phones when we're looking at this. Being it's in 91. But yeah, the only bad part, the reason it's not a 10 out of 10 is Tyler Endicott. That's the character's name, played by Lori Petty. She's in A League of Their Own as Kit. She also plays the love interest in this. She's not my favorite actress.
Isn't she in Free Willy too? I think she's.
I think so. They could have cast infinitely other actresses in this, and I would have been a little bit happier with that. But I'm just happy it wasn't Fran Drescher. So
there you go.
We can go on from there.
And I was going to go 8 out of 10. I'm going to bump it to an 8.5 out of 10 for another actor, Flea from the Red Hot Chili Peppers. One of the best roles. No, it's not Flea. It's
Anthony Kiedis.
Anthony Kiedis. Sorry. Is Flea in the movie as well? I feel like he makes an appearance. But
I thought he was one of the other goons.
Yeah. But Kiedis is the one on the beach that fights Johnny Utah. I just love when they're doing the raid on the house and he's in there and he's like shooting up adrenaline. He's like listening. He's listening to rock and roll and he's acting like he's about to do heroin, but he's just feeling the music, which is pretty much what the Red Hot Chili Peppers are. So all around, very good movie. 9 out of 10 overall from us. Let's move on. Box office. Some really, really monster numbers coming out of the box office this week. This was the biggest box office overall as far as all the movies total since President's Day before COVID hit. So
wow,
finally heading in the right direction. In first place, we had Black Widow with $80 million, beating Fast 9's record of $70 million. Even more impressive than that, though, is they did an additional $60 million on people buying this movie on Disney Plus to watch, which was a $30 rental that they could do. So in total, 140 domestic, I believe another 120 international. So the biggest worldwide opening since the pandemic began. In second place, we had F9 with $10.8 million. Last week it did $23 million, so another 60% drop, sinking like a stone. Boss Baby, $8.7 million, $16 million last week, so right around 50%, like we say. For people who don't really know how the box office works, 50% is average. Anything below 50% is a really good hold. It means people, good word of mouth on a movie, especially when you get to actions and horror movies. If they have under 50%, like The Quiet Place has consistently had, it typically means people love the movie. Anything above 60 is really, really bad and typically a sign of people not liking the movie. Forever Purge, $6.71 million off $12.5 last week, so under 50%. Really good for a horror movie. Really good word of mouth on this. And of course, in fifth place, A Quiet Place Part 2. Even though it's already available on demand in certain for Paramount Plus, $3 million, only $4 million last week, so only lost 25%. Holding very well, and actually will end up with a bigger domestic gross than Fast 9, which is absolutely insane.
Come on.
Who could have predicted that? Wolf, any thoughts? I know I just threw a lot of numbers at you, but what are your thoughts?
I feel like F9 is at that critical point where it's going to blow up internationally still for the next couple weeks, but in America, the word is out. Jeff might be the only guy who likes it, so we'll see. Sorry, Jeffrey.
So this one, just
Black
to give
Widow's-
you an update, F9 is pretty much done worldwide as well. It made about 15 million in everywhere else in the country. So it's pretty much out of steam. Of course, it'll hold on for a couple more weeks here, but the final numbers are right around probably 600 million when it's all said and done. So 100 million less than F5.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy to think that even that number is still insane for what they produced, and it definitely cost them a lot. So it's not like the payday they were expecting, I'm sure. But Black Widow certainly is surprising to me, especially those Disney Plus numbers, because I feel like I would rather spend $20 on a couple tickets and go in a theater than $30 and sit on my couch for a movie like this, at least that has a lot of grandiose action and what Marvel movies are known for, great sound editing and cinematography, etc. Really a lot more suited for a big screen, I think. But 80 million with people going, crushing F9. I thought F9 was a pretty big opening overall too. So the fact that these numbers are, slowly going up and up and up, I think it just bodes well for everything. So hopefully we get some good blockbusters here coming down the pipe.
Yeah, just to kind of translate that 60 million for people, that's an additional 2 million households that spent $30 to watch Black Widow at home. So potentially, an extra 6 to 8 million people in total. I'm sure most people that are ordering this is like families that didn't want to go to the movies, because who would spend 30 when you can spend, $5 to $10 on a ticket? What's amazing about that is, just to put it in perspective, the Snyder Cut, which was free on HBO Max, was watched by 1.8 million households its opening weekend, which was a big number for them. It was more than Wonder Woman. So not only was it the biggest opening, but the fact that almost had some of the most watched at home is absolutely insane for the same weekend, and just a sign that Marvel is going to be number one for the next 20 or 30 years at the box office. But
for sure.
Let's move into some news. So, like I said, new segment here. Sorry. 3, 2, 1. Let's move into some news. We are going to do this a little different. So we're going to do rapid fire, PTI style, going through a couple news stories before we get to our top 3. With the top 3, we'll spend a little extra time diving in. But, Wolf, just some quick hits for you. It has already been announced that we are going to be getting a Tomorrow War 2 sequel with everyone returning, including the writers, Chris Pratt, and the director, Chris McKay. Any thoughts on this? Does this make you happy or sad?
I saw it coming. Part of the movie actually lent itself to me believing that there would be another movie coming to explain some stuff. So I was not surprised at all, and especially after we saw a studio like Netflix do Extraction 2 immediately after the success of Extraction, I was like, well, this movie's getting talked about a lot of viewership.
Yeah.
They're going to go for the money 100%. So, should be interesting.
Yeah, I was in the opposite boat. Based off watching the movie, I thought, okay, no way they're doing a sequel. That wouldn't make sense. But then when the opening happened and all the attention and buzz it was getting for how many people watched, it was a no-brainer. Movie studios. What's interesting about this, and we'll move on, we'll talk about it towards the end about where we think the sequel will go during our review. It's just interesting that this movie was made by Paramount, sold to Amazon. So now Paramount and Amazon actually have to work together to release the sequel, which will almost 100% likely be released on Amazon Prime, not in theaters. So let's move on to our next quick hit. Guillermo del Toro's Nightmare Alley gets an R rating for strong violence. Mostly wanted to talk about this just because I don't think a lot of people are aware that it's coming out. And Del Toro's last movie, he won an Oscar for our favorite Shape of Water. But we always have said that his, bread and butter is this sort of more thriller, scary genre. And this cast, Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, William Dafoe, Toni Collette, Rooney Mara, Richard Jenkins, Ron Perlman, and several other recognizable names round out this cast. Wolf, what do you think of this cast, and will you give him another chance after Shape of Water?
The cast is, to put it lightly, one of the better casts of all time. It sounds like I would like to see some of these people interact, especially like Willem Dafoe and Rooney Mara, because I always just picture Rooney Mara as the girl with the dragon tattoo, and I find if she was talking to the Green Goblin, that would be hilarious. As far as giving Guillermo del Toro another chance, The Shape of Water, Looks like it's the biggest dumpster fire of all time of a movie, just not my style. But this one seems to be moving in a direction that I would possibly give him another chance, because it says specifically it will not feature supernatural elements in the actual movie.
Yeah.
So right there, if it's just something that's, like a scary thriller, murder mystery type, which looks like it's set in the 1940s, kind of a noir style. So I imagine, Bradley Cooper to be a cop or detective in some way.
He's actually going to be a carny, a manipulative carny who gets wrapped up with a dangerous female psychiatrist. So if you ever wanted to see Bradley Cooper play a carny, this is your chance. No, I think we'll move on from this one, but I think this is going to be, if nothing else, a very entertaining ride for sure. Let's move into our last quick hit. Red Notice, the Dwayne Johnson, Ryan Reynolds, Gal Gadot Netflix action movie is coming to you on November 12th. Wolf, I want you to score this movie 1 out of 10, having never seen it and hopefully never having to see it. What are you going to give this movie out of a 10?
Negative 612,842.
Wow.
Just right off the bat.
Wow.
We're going into it actually created the Hall of Shame.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's
what was the worst part of the movie for you?
Anytime that The Rock and Gal Gadot had a conversation. I think that they were not able to understand each other mostly. Like big words.
I was with you. Where it really went off the rails for me, I was more at like a 2 out of 10. I was enjoying it for a little, but then The Rock and Gal Gadot started measuring their dicks. And I was really disappointed to find out that Gal Gadot was a little bit larger than The Rock. I did not see that coming. Haven't seen Hobbs and Shaw. The Rock was very boastful about his penis size, and this was a letdown for me overall. But there were some funny moments with Kevin Hart, of course, hilarious in this movie. I don't know if he's actually in it. And Jason Statham was great as well. But let's move on to our top 3 stories of the week. So, number 3 story comes to us from another monster cast, a movie called Argylle, directed by Matthew Vaughn as a spy thriller. I will break down the cast for you and get some thoughts. Well, if we have your boy Henry Cavill, or Cavill, as you like to call him, Sam Rockwell, Bryce Dallas Howard from Jurassic World, Bryan Cranston, Catherine O'Hara from Schitt's Creek, John Cena, Samuel L. Jackson, among others. Wolf, are you excited for this movie? Fan of Matthew Vaughn overall, and just thoughts on the cast?
Yeah, I'm kind of excited for this movie. Argylle is my favorite kind of sweater vest, so at least right there, we're kind of starting off on a positive note. It looks like a spy film, so right along the alley we've been seeing Henry Cavill in Mission Impossible recently. The cast is fantastic, just like most of these other ensemble casts. However, I'm not putting my hopes up too much on any movie, being that so many have been bad lately. But to keep it more positive, who doesn't like to see the comedy duo of John Cena and Catherine O'Hara, who I will always know as the mom from Home Alone, not from Schitt's Creek.
There you go.
I hope they have some witty banter back and forth. Could be interesting. But this definitely looks like it could be something.
Yeah, I'm assuming that this will have a tone similar to The Kingsman, and obviously not as childish as Kick-Ass, but that's another movie he directed, as well as he did X-Men First Class. So definitely have that globe-trotting spy vibe with, kind of dry humor, I would assume, especially as we've seen. John Cena is much better in a humoristic role than he is in a serious action thriller. I was referring to the Fast Saga, if you did not catch my drift.
Anyone missed that part?
Yeah,
I haven't been paying attention.
I'm a huge Cena fan, but that was hard for me to watch. More Bumblebee, less F9. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this. Matthew Vaughn definitely has an eye for directing. Doesn't make bad movies. I'm not a huge fan of the Kingsman movies. I like the first one more so than the second one. And the third one, I definitely will not see The King's Space Man. One of the
not.
worst ideas for a movie ever, and why is this happening 5.0? But yeah, no, this one has a ton of potential. As far as standouts, Bryan Cranston, I feel like we have not seen him in a ton of stuff since Breaking Bad. Maybe he's just chilling with all the money that he made. And always not looking forward to Bryce Dallas Howard, one of my least favorite actors working today, and one of the worst parts of the Jurassic World franchise by far.
And her Black Mirror episode is by far the worst of her, and it's basically what I imagine hanging out with her is like. So if you guys are curious to know where some of the deep-seated hate for Bryce Dallas Howard
I didn't
comes
know
from.
we were going to take shots at her. Let's continue. Terminator Salvation. She plays John Connor's wife. Absolutely horrendous in that movie. And she also ruined The Mandalorian for me with that awful filler episode where they have basically a T-Rex, ATT, attacking a village. Complete ripoff of Jurassic Park, and one of the reasons that I kind of fell off of The Mandalorian for a little bit, I just could not believe they are letting her direct just because her dad made the horrific Solo movie, and now she is wrapped up in the Star Wars, and she will be also directing a couple episodes of Boba Fett. So
Ooh,
sorry for that rant on her, but she really just haunts my dreams. Any project she's attached to, she seems to just ruin. And no, I'm kidding. She's great.
I can't believe that Ron Howard did Apollo 13 and Solo
And The Grinch.
Like, imagine having that. Yeah, his catalog is certainly diverse. But like as far as like space movies go, Apollo 13 is one of like the best space movies ever made, visually as well as just the story. But the fact that he has like a Star Wars movie along with that, like I'd be ashamed. I don't know. It's just something.
Which is
weird.
funny because that's actually what it's called, Solo, a Star Wars movie.
Yes,
One of the worst names ever for a movie, by the way.
pretty bad.
Yeah.
Yep, pretty bad.
What really pisses me off, and we'll move on, going on a tangent, I just rewatched 21 and 22 Jump Street from Lord and Miller. They were originally the directors of that Solo movie, and I guarantee you that would have been the funniest movie ever
Yes.
if they continue to direct it. I hope someday that they tell that story of what happened, because it's bullshit that they got kicked off, and that movie got totally ruined and is one of the biggest bombs in box office history. Mm-hmm. Speaking of Star Wars, and I did not plan this, but it just happens to be where we go next, Zack Snyder is going to be co-writing and directing an epic sci-fi fantasy film, Rebel Moon, for Netflix. This was an original idea that he pitched to Disney as a Star Wars movie, and now Netflix is going to be making it. Of course, it will have no connection to the Star Wars universe and will be its own thing. Wolf.
This is a very strong contender for the why is this happening this week, everybody.
So what do you think this movie is going to be like? I got to know. How long do you think it'll be, and will it be better than Rise of Skywalker?
So in reading Zack Snyder's inspiration for this, he's talking about Akira Kurosawa as one of his influences here, as well as his longtime love for Star Wars and the Star Wars universe. I just don't. After what we've seen lately from Snyder, I don't know that he has the chops to take an existing lore and make something out of it, because he didn't do that with anything DC Comics related. He kind of just spun that into the mess we're in now. But anything Star Wars, I'll give a shot. I have watched Solo. I have watched Rise of Skywalker. They're two of the worst movies ever made, but I did watch them because I am a fan. So I will definitely see this 100%, like no matter what. What I'm hoping is that it's disconnected enough that my expectations are literally in the negatives, and then I just go into it and it's like, okay, yeah, here's a nice thing about a different part of Star Wars that we don't know about.
So this is not, just to be clear, this is not connected to Star Wars. Disney is not affiliated with this. This plot has nothing to do with it, and they are 100%. He basically pitched them an idea, and they turned it down, and now he's taken that idea and turned it into its own thing. So it's probably going to be much more similar to Army of the Dead, where it's his own universe, own characters. It's not going to have anything we recognize from Star Wars. It's basically a space movie that he's making.
Just in the time of Star Wars that's going on, but it's not affiliated. So it'll be like ships that we probably see similar ships.
I don't think they can do that. I really don't.
No?
I think you're not realizing that Star Wars, they literally own everything that we see. You can't make a fake Millennium Falcon and call it the Millennium Falcon and get away with it.
That's not what I mean. I mean, like, if we still are seeing ships in the Mandalorian we've never seen before.
Sure.
But we know that they're generally like a Star Warsy universe looking ship. I imagine that will still kind of come into play a little bit.
So I'm gonna disagree. I think that he's going to intentionally make this movie as polar opposite of Star Wars to like stick it to them and be like, listen, you guys messed up. This is my movie. It's 17 hours long. This movie might be longer.
Well, then I won't watch it. There's no chance.
So Zack Snyder, it's hit or miss for me. I like some of his work. I did not like Army of the Dead. That was really one of my least favorite movies of his. And again, it's similar to the Fast franchise for me, Zack Snyder's trajectory. Like, there's people that love it, and that's great. But it's going in a different direction than I enjoy. I just don't enjoy the F9 movies being like, hey, we're getting shot, but we're not dying, invincibility. And that's not that's the direction Snyder's going in, but he's going in a direction where he's focusing on things in his movie that I'm just personally not that interested in. A little overindulgent for me. And this movie just seems like on paper, if he doesn't realize no Star Wars movie is that long, they're mostly like 2 hours. And I think this one will 100% be over 3 hours long. If it's under 3 hours, I'll be the happiest person in the world. And that to me would show me that he's realizing that these movies don't need to be 4, 5, 6 hours long. But it's space. So when you give this guy who is creative and he does come up with some pretty cool ideas, I just have a feeling this movie is going to have like a prequel, a spinoff, and all this stuff, which is great for Netflix and great for the people that enjoy it. But I just have a feeling it won't be for me, especially if Star Wars and Disney thought that it was not even good enough to be part of their spinoffs at all. So we shall see. But any last thoughts on it?
Doesn't bode well. I'm not looking forward to anything that he produces anymore. And the slow-mo is going to be insane.
Yeah,
in this movie for sure.
That's for sure. And I'm curious to see if there is some sort of lightsaber ripoff in this movie. I doubt it. Again, like I said, if there's anything he's pretty good at, it's doing his own thing and whatever most people want, like doing the polar opposite of. So if people want lightsabers, he'll have something completely different going on for sure. But it will definitely be his vision. That's all I can say. But let's move into the top story of the week. One we're both excited about, the What If trailer from Marvel. Just dropped this week. So Marvel What If is based on the long-running comic series, which basically says, what if this happened instead of that? What if Killmonger saved Tony Stark from him blowing up in the original Iron Man movie? There's a couple other really, really funny ones here. What if Black Panther was in the Guardians of the Galaxy? Wolf, what story are you most looking forward to, and what did you think of the trailer?
As far as picking out one particular thing that I'm most looking forward to, there isn't really one. I'm actually looking forward to all of them because this type of writing and the what if in general is kind of why I like movies and TV, because you can start to think about stuff like who hasn't ended a TV show and wished you could see like more stuff happen with that character, like when there's nothing new that's going to be coming from it, like a Breaking Bad or a Game of Thrones. Like if this could go off in so many directions to do like what if any other show, like they could do it there. But the trailer for this looked amazing. All of these little new universes, they literally the possibilities are endless, and I think it's one of the most creative ideas I've seen in a long time. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if this will be canon because it's multiverse and we're getting ready to go into the multiverse. I'm curious to see if this has anything to do with Loki, which would be really cool if, I've been saying the whole time, I hope that the end of Loki is important, but I'd also be okay if it leads into this what if universe as the post-credit tease. That would be fine by me. Most looking forward to Black Panther being paired with Yondu, mostly to see Chadwick Boseman's last performance ever, which is really cool that he was able to record his voice for these episodes coming up. And Yondu, again, one of my favorite MCU characters, played by Michael Rooker. Just seeing those two, I think it'll have an incredible banter, and really looking forward to that, seeing his return. But yeah, overall, I really like the animation that they're going with this. It looks pretty real, which that's what I'm a big fan of. I'm not a huge fan of TV show cartoons, more so like the movies, something short and sweet. But if I'm going to do a TV show cartoon, I appreciate them trying to get the look and feel of the MCU movies as close as possible to kind of lose yourself a little bit and almost make you think you're watching one of the movies, which is kind of how I felt watching the trailer. But any last thoughts before we move into something we don't want to talk about?
No, like I said, Michael Rooker might be the best part of F9, by the way, in his small
Yeah, that's
role
true. We didn't really talk
the
about
mechanic.
He really is probably the best part of the movie.
Definitely. And the what if, the possibilities are endless. I can't say that enough. I'm really looking forward to it. It's amazing that they're able to get the guys like Robert Downey Jr. to do his voice as Iron Man and bring him back. That's just cool. We never thought we'd see that again. But nobody dies, so here we are.
Here we are, and here we go. One more time for the record books. Why is this happening? Mr. Aaron Wolf, Fast and the Furious spinoff with Charlize Theron Cypher is in the work, reveals Vin Diesel. We are not only getting an all-female film, but she will be getting her own film. So God looked down at us and he said, you want a Furiosa movie? Well, Charlize Theron's busy. She's doing a Fast and Furious spinoff instead of Furiosa. Wow. Wolf, tell me why. Tell me how. Tell me how.
Tell me how. It's like it's becoming a joke. Like, I'm almost thinking that someone is really putting these out there just to mess with us. If the Fast universe needs less things, it's less spin-offs, that's for sure. So this one, I don't really like Charlize after F9. In F8, she was great. Fate of the Furious, she was great. But yeah, she lost it for me on this one. And I just don't know how much more I can devote to the spin-offs. Like, Hobbs and Shaw was really a tipping point for me.
Yeah.
As far as anything related to longer spin-offs with characters we like in short spurts. This one, she was definitely a good short spurt in Fate of the Furious, a horrible short spurt in F9. Why is this happening, guys? It's just ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
almost speechless.
So I have this issue. Because clearly, if she's getting her own movie, she's going to be some sort of anti-hero who turns good. I'm getting like a headache thinking about it. Like, we just had Cruella, which I know a lot of people liked. We don't need spin-off origin stories for every villain to justify why they are the way they are. Every single villain in the Fast and the Furious franchise has gone from bad to good. It's like it's a
every single time.
It's a running joke, and at this point, she's been bad for 2 minutes. I really hope that she doesn't end up working with them, which it certainly feels like, based off what we've seen and the fact that there's a spinoff in the works, that's the case. Now, if she was the villain, if they did an all-female Fast and the Furious movie and she was the villain in that, sure, Go make your Cardi B movie. I won't watch it, but some people will, and they'll enjoy it. But to give her own movie is absolutely ridiculous. She's one of the worst parts of F9 with her Hannibal Lecter impersonation, and I'm a huge fan of her. So I think that movie felt like she signed on for one and had an agreement to do more. And by the time it came time to do it, she was like, "All right, I got to find a way out of this. Let me just mail this in. Maybe they won't use me anymore, but." It looks like she's going to be the main villain for the rest of the series, unfortunately. But last thoughts on Fast 9 and the Fast saga. And Wolf, I'll let you throw some comments in here too. I have defended this franchise for years, and you can attest to that with TV Ron, I've backed this franchise all the way up through F8. I really liked F8. But I just can't do it anymore. It's like defending Ben Simmons at the free throw line. I can't do it anymore. Don't get me wrong. I hope F10 and F11 are great. I hope Rock and Statham come back and they end this the way it deserves to be ended after I've invested 20 years of my life into it. but I just don't think it'll happen. So I will definitely be watching the mainline entries and we will be reviewing them. But my expectations after F9 have gone in the water. But I will say F9 was also written by a completely new writer, because the writer of F8 through F3, Back to Tokyo Drift, sided with The Rock with the whole argument. So he left.
Oh, man.
He left with The Rock, and now we're left with a new writer. And that was one of my biggest issues with F9, is it wasn't funny to me. Like all the other movies, the banter was really good, and this one was really cheesy and really terrible. But Wolf, final thoughts on F9 before we move on.
Yeah, I will watch the F10 trailer and see if it looks good, and then go from there. That's about all I got left on Fast and Furious forever.
Pretty reasonable. Yeah, it's sad. It's sad. It's like a family member dying. But let's move into something that I know you're excited to talk about, weekly recommendations. Once a week, me and Wolf will be giving you a recommendation where we don't do a full deep dive review, but we want to get you the best recommendations possible so you have as much good content to watch. Wolf, what do you have this week?
Yes, going back to your comments last week about Steven Soderbergh, he has directed a new film called No Sudden Move. It is available right now on HBO Max, streaming for you. Stars Don Cheadle, Benicio del Toro, David Harbour, John Hamm, Brendan Fraser as fat as ever, and Julia Fox, as well as a special surprise visit by our good friend Matt Damon towards the end. Very, very good role for him. This is a pretty good movie. I have to agree with the critics. I was very entertained. It was a little bit thrilling. Not quite sure how these idiots are going to pull off this particular heist, but one of Benicio del Toro's characters also named Ronald Russo. I thought that was hilarious. I was like, this is definitely Eric's uncle in real life. Not kidding. It's based in Detroit. It's got a lot going for it. Not a lot of movies, about and based in Detroit lately, unless it's about some young white boy Rick selling coke at 14 years old. But I enjoyed it. It's just under 2 hours long, so you can get through it fairly quickly. And yeah, it's a pretty good cast. Good use of the cast as well.
You got a score for us?
Yeah, I would give it a solid 7 out of 10.
There we go.
Entertaining,
Good
watchable,
stuff.
Good stuff.
Yep. TV Ron also mentioned this one to me. I don't know if he had watched it or just mentioned that he heard good things about it. So multiple people have said this is good. Definitely on my radar. I was about to watch it the other week, but got a little tied up with a couple other things. So good to hear, and we'll definitely be checking this out, and I will report back to you. Moving into my rec of the week, I can't believe I'm recommending this. I'm sorry that I'm recommending this, but I just went to see The Forever Purge, starring none other than a lot of people I don't know, and Josh Lucas. Josh Lucas, I'm a big fan of. He's always had a couple good roles. He's basically like a poor man's Matthew McConaughey. So I always enjoy Josh Lucas, and the other cast were very, very good. It also had Will Patton. Will Patton's in a ton of stuff as well, but everyone else never have seen any of them before. But the Purge series in general, one of the more surprising series. The first Purge movie is so bad. Not the movie. There's a movie called The First Purge, but the actual movie, the original Purge movie, is one of my least favorite horror movies ever. Moving in to The Purge 2 and The Purge 3 with Frank Grillo from Crossbones fame from the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Awesome action movies, so not so much horror as they are action. And then this one was incredible too. So if you have not seen the Purge movies, skip the first Purge and skip the first Purge, the movie called The First Purge. Watch the other three. They are all very good. I would give this a 7 out of 10. And very, very, considering this movie was filmed in 2019, really touches on issues that they predicted for America, and some of them are pretty haunting, and you will definitely think that this movie was made after January 6, 2021, but they were not. So very interesting stuff, and if you like scary thriller action movies, I think you'll get a kick out of this for sure. But let's move into our 2 reviews of the week, and we will start with Loki Episode 5. So, Wolf, I know you missed the Loki Episode 4 last week, so I'll get quick thoughts on just what you thought about 4 and 5 and how they kind of tie together with the end of 4 with the post-credit tease. But just general thoughts heading into this finale. Where do you stand with the series, Loki?
The episode 4 and episode 5 were both excellent overall, and the overall series is one of the more exceptional series I think that have ever been made. I'm not just saying that because I'm a big superhero Marvel fan at this point, but just the where these guys can go with their imagination and how they come up with some of this stuff just is way over my head. It's amazing. Like the fact that there's an alligator Loki, like who doesn't like that? But I'm really excited for the finale because like you, I'm anxious to see if this ties into much of what we have to come in the next several years with the multiverse. So it's an excellent show. There's not much else to say.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I was a huge fan of episode 4. Probably even, I thought episode 4 had more interesting things happen, but moving into episode 5, so episode 5 is titled Journey into Mystery. I thought narratively, it was one of the strongest episodes. Just really smooth, breezed by. I found myself checking the running time to see how much time I had left, hoping that it was not going to end, which is usually a good sign that I'm enjoying what I'm seeing. But yeah, just a lot of standout moments. We'll get into spoilers, but once again, if you have not seen Loki, watch it. It's fantastic. I will be really upset if this finale isn't at least decent, and I can't imagine that they'll mess this up. They're 5 for 5 now. It's one of the better shows I've seen in a while, action or otherwise, and just really looking forward to see how they wrap this thing up. But Wolf, let's just move into episode 5. What were your thoughts on all the Loki variants that we got to meet, and who was your favorite?
The Loki, the war of the Lokis was definitely my favorite scene. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
It's just like Lokis to betray each other and go back on their word and always have a scheme going, and they hit that so far on the head. And especially the fact with the one line of dialogue that we're Lokis, we're survivors. Like that was just like it hit the nail right on the head. And that's why they're able to survive in this void where there's a giant creature eating up everybody who comes to that planet. It's fantastic. I'm just like, it's so excited for the end. We're uncovering, the fact that there's this other world behind all of this that we still don't know who's in control, being the timekeepers are fake. I have no idea how it's going to end. My favorite Loki, though, I have to say, was Classic Loki. That's how he's named in all of the credits, played by Richard E. Grant.
Yeah.
This guy is one of those guys you recognize his face immediately, but you have no idea what his name was. I just had to look up Richard Grant really quick, but he's always great. He has like one of the most smooth British voices of any human being, and you just like to listen to him. And then how powerful he is and how well developed his magic is really also sets the stage, and something that Loki acknowledged. They are more powerful than they realize. So Loki may even grow up into like a Thor level strength, as we're seeing even Thor is getting more and more powers from the last couple movies. So pretty cool stuff. A lot of doors opened. And I think one of my favorite parts about the entire episode is how many Easter eggs there were. They did that on purpose for sure.
There was so many.
We get like little Thor comments as well as Mjolnir, which is Thor's hammer. So there's another Thor's hammer out there just kind of chilling in the void. So again, it's just so creative, so well shot. The CGI wasn't that bad. It actually looked pretty good. And it's a great episode.
Yeah, I'm with you. Richard E. Grant playing Classic Loki. Definitely my favorite character this week, and I almost wish that we got to see like almost an entire season of those Lokis working together, which is a pretty cool thing. Yeah, this whole episode could have been one season of Loki. His death I was pretty sad about it. It was very, very well done, especially with him smiling and yelling "glorious purpose." I thought it was a good callback to the very first episode, and just the whole story that he told, that he actually was the Loki that went through Endgame. He just chose to do something slightly different. Infinity War, when Loki's murdered by Thanos. He did the same thing. He just tricked Thanos. I thought that was really cool, and that's how he became old Loki. Loved alligator Loki, obviously, which we'll get into. What I could have used, not that this is like a nitpick, I thought if there was ever an opportunity to have like a Thor variant show up, like an evil Chris Hemsworth running all the Lokis, I thought that would have been a really cool opportunity. I was kind of hoping we were going to get it, but again, I don't knock this episode for not doing that.
Sure.
Chris Hemsworth, super expensive, and with filming, with COVID and everything, I get that this was not ideal circumstances, but I was looking forward to that. Instead, we did get the frog version of Thor, which was cool. Another thing I really enjoyed was there was many Easter eggs for Kang, which I thought was really cool, including his like tower, which looks very similar to Avengers Tower from the Avengers movies. So I don't know, man. I don't know where we're going to go next week as far as we see this castle at the end of the episode. We know that they are about to meet someone that is in charge of all this, at least so we think. My biggest fear is that it's a Loki variant, the strongest Loki variant of them all, and that I would really not like. I think that's a really poor storytelling device. Anything else, literally anything else, I'm okay with. Whether it's Kang, whether it's Bradley Cooper's Rocket Raccoon, I really don't care. As long as it's just not another Loki, that would be super, super disappointing. But we're about to find out.
I'm very hopeful and I'm pretty sure they won't do that. I'm just thinking, what other better way to introduce another powerful being that we could then get in 10 movies moving forward versus, it was Loki all along. I really am hopeful they don't do that. I would be just as disappointed.
Yeah. So I'm with you. I think Kang makes the most sense, but I'm pretty sure that they cast the actor to play Kang. He's going to be an Ant-Man like we talked about. Excuse me, I'm not remembering his name, but I don't think that happened while they were filming this or before they filmed this. So I'm assuming if Kang appears, it will be kind of how Thanos appeared at the end of Avengers. He didn't speak and he didn't have lines. So I highly doubt that he's going to be in this last episode as the major villain. That really wouldn't fit with the show and what it's doing. So I don't know. I really don't know, but this show has surprised me week after week in a good way, and I'm just praying that it can seal the deal and potentially go out as a 10 out of 10 TV series. But a lot is on the line, like I said, because it could totally go the other way.
Yes.
And we shall see. But up until this point, Kate Herron, the director, Tom Kaufman, the writer, have done a tremendous job. One thing that we're going to dive into in the next week or two, which I think will be a fun discussion, is that the Kevin Feige produced Star Wars movie has the writer from Loki attached, which gives me tremendous hope that that's going to be one of the greatest Star Wars movies of all time, and hopefully the beginning of Feige taking over the Star Wars movie universe, which would be cool too. But let's move into our main event. Any last thoughts on Loki?
No, watch it. Definitely watch it, guys.
Watch it. Let's move into our main event, Wolf. Today, we have our official review of The Tomorrow War from Amazon Prime, starring Chris Pratt, Yvonne Strahovski, J.K. Simmons, Betty Gilpin, Sam Richardson, among others, directed by Chris McKay and written by a new writer, Zach Dean, who has a ton of stuff on the horizon. Wolf, expectations heading into this movie?
From the trailers, I was expecting a very run-of-the-mill action movie, very similar to what I had seen many times before with multiple different movie franchises. So it was fairly low expectations,
sure.
And that's just based on what we got, and I'm happy to say the trailers didn't give too much away of the overall storyline and some of the emotions that kind of come from it, which I thought they did a really good job on. It's kind of peeking into general thoughts here, but I didn't have too much of an expectation going in.
Yeah, so for me, pretty similar to you. I remember when this movie got announced, I thought anything Chris Pratt I'm always excited about. Looked pretty cool. I was excited to see this in the theater when it was announced it was supposed to come out last Christmas, but once it went to Amazon Prime, my excitement level dropped. One, it's nothing against Amazon Prime, and there have been some really great movies that were made by studios and then sold to streamers that have won Oscars, right? What we haven't gotten too much of is like streamer movies making good movies, but I just assume that if Paramount sold it off, they just didn't see it as a movie that could make a lot of money. Why else would they sell it off, right? And going into it, I just thought it would be a pretty generic action movie and hopefully hold my attention better than Without Remorse and Extraction and a couple of these other movies that we've seen on streamers. But I'll just move into my general thoughts with it. Surprisingly, it was a little better than I thought it was going to be. After having sat on it for a week or two, not as great as my initial thoughts were. I liked a lot of it. I thought the first half was particularly better than the second half. The third act specifically, I thought was really, really bad. If I had to kind of grade out halves, I would say the first half was about an 8 out of 10. Second half was like a 4 out of 10. But there is a lot to like in this movie, specifically Chris Pratt and Sam Richardson. I really enjoyed their banter throughout the whole movie. One of the things, I'm not too sure who the cinematographer was on this movie, but the camera work, the action scenes, the CGI, all fantastic. If you listen to our podcast, you know one thing I absolutely hate are quick cuts. And this movie had almost one in every scene, just these long extended shots where it almost seemed like the camera was attached to the front of Chris Pratt, so we could see Chris Pratt and he was moving and the camera was moving with him. And I was just so bummed that we didn't get to see this on a big screen, especially with some of the quote-unquote scarier jump scenes. I thought they would have played really well in a packed house theater. Almost gave me Cloverfield vibes, which I'm a huge fan of. And last thing before I pass it to you, the monster design, really, really cool for me. Again, this movie cost like $110 million to make. The CGI looked really convincing to me. Of course, the more you see the monsters, I thought they showed them a little too much. Eventually, you hit the point where you can start to see that they are computer-generated imagery. And I was very disappointed that they ended the movie, which we'll get into spoilers, but the one of the final scenes is in the snow, which these things are white, which I thought was a terrible choice for a color palette because you couldn't actually see what the hell was going on with a white creature with a white background. So
right.
Aside from that decision, overall, loved the special effects in the movie. But Wolf, what are your general thoughts on the Tomorrow War?
Yeah, I completely agree on the cinematography. The cinematographer for this was actually, his name is Larry Fong. He did a fantastic job. I thought, when some of those drones were shooting and you could see the camera underneath the drone from the view of the gun, I thought that those types of shots are some of the most amazing towards the end of the movie. The budget for this was actually $200 million. So something I did want to comment on because I think you could notice the difference in the CGI versus some other movies that have skimped. I'm getting that from Wikipedia. Yeah. The budget, it says $200 million. I did enjoy this movie quite a bit. My thought on it was, they're ripping off like 20 other movies. I could name something that's similar to this, but I was okay with it because the story, the acting, the writing, the emotions that come from some of the characters, the connections they make, I thought that made for a very entertaining film overall. And just some of their general ideas and stuff we'll get into spoilers really made me like it. And I would strongly recommend people watch this movie. Again, it's a little long, about 2 hours and 20 minutes total, but there's enough of the story that kind of hooks you in. But I would agree 100%. The best part's the first 75%, and then the last 25 kind of gets into no man's land. But that's where it might lose a couple points here and there. But overall, pretty good movie.
Let's score this thing out, and then we'll move into a little mini deep dive through the plot of this thing. But as far as scores go, I'm going to go with a 6.5 out of 10. I would watch this again, so I did enjoy it enough to give it another look at some point. But I do have several pacing issues, several issues with the finale that just drag it down a little bit. Not to mention, we have to call a spade a spade. This movie copies off of every sci-fi movie you can name, and specifically one or two it not only copies off of, it rips the actual plot off of them. And not a movie from the 1980s. This is, Prometheus came out in 2012, I believe. So not even 10 years ago. I almost looked around and was like, did I change this? Did they really just do that? So we'll get into what I'm referring to, but still really enjoyable. This is one of those movies. I'll say this, though. If you don't like Chris Pratt, don't watch this movie because you're not going to like this movie. If you like Chris Pratt and you enjoy him in Jurassic World and some of the other movies he's done, you'll love it. And that's really what it comes down to, because if you can't get behind the protagonist of a movie like this, you're going to be bored for about 2 hours and 15 minutes. But, Wolf, what's your score?
Yeah, I'm pretty close to you. I will give this 7 out of 10. I tried to match it up to something pretty similar I've seen recently. That was Godzilla versus Kong. I gave it the same score. I would say I was entertained equally by that. And the things that I didn't like that detracted from Godzilla versus Kong was just how, the water pouring over the keyboard, that type of stuff. This movie, it was the fact that they were literally taking ideas, and being that's a new writer, you got to write from kind of stuff that you know about. So it's not a total ripoff, I would say, until, like you said, the very end is almost a direct ripoff. But a lot of the ideas he put little spins on that kind of made it this movie's own. So I'll leave it there. So overall, 6.75 out of 10 from the Made for Movies podcast, our official review of The Tomorrow War. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so if you have not seen The Tomorrow War, don't listen to this part because we are going to spoil the entire movie for you. But let's just jump into it. So let's talk about the first act of this movie, the setup, time travel. Just, we don't have to go over what happened, but just the thoughts. How did you enjoy how they did the time travel and their reasoning for sending basically soldiers back who have no training whatsoever versus sending our active military in the year 2022?
Yeah, one of the points I did like about the movie is how they addressed the time travel, which is that it continues linearly.
Yeah.
So that's kind of taking off not necessarily like a Terminator type of vibe, but it's almost as if we're discussing it like the joke that they're doing in Avengers Endgame, where they're like, why don't we just go back and kill baby Thanos?
Yeah.
They're like, well, that's horrible. Plus time doesn't work that way. And so they go into Back to the Future timelines and this and that. This one, I did like that, and it sounds kind of realistic as to how time would go.
More of a portal.
Through a portal that it just picks you up in the spot that the last time portal ended. So you're not missing anything. You can't go back to a specific thing. I kind of like that, in that it's not the ultimate tool being time travel. It's something that they could use, but doesn't solve all their problems necessarily. The idea of the future people being dead already, or the people going back not being alive yet, that kind of falls within that similar line. Is that what you were asking about?
What you're talking about. So I'll talk before we get into that point. I'll agree with you. I really enjoyed the explanation of the time bridge. Is basically what they said is, you're crossing a bridge and the two sides are moving linearly through time. So as a year goes by in the future, a year goes by here, and you can't jump around. I did enjoy that. It also covered up a lot of plot holes that you could ask, but not every plot hole, as we'll get into. But yeah, just what were your thoughts on them sending back? Basically, the rule was you had to send someone back that was already dead 30 years from now. You couldn't send military if they were alive.
Right. No, I honestly, I didn't care that that's what they had to do for it.
Yeah.
It kind of made sense to the storyline of how they'll recruit people to go forward, but also whoever can come back. Doing it on a TV where everybody's watching the World Cup, obviously pretty smart, because everybody's watching that, but kind of weird. They could have done it with I don't know, leadership of a government or something along those lines. But again, little choppy stuff I wasn't too much caring for, because I was appreciating how well Chris Pratt's acting was in this.
Sure.
Kind of his story as a former super soldier, almost a Green Beret, is pretty good up there. And then now he's a biology teacher, but he's still wanting for more. And then this kind of catastrophic thing is going on. It's good. I think that enough sucks you in at the beginning versus all the kind of stuff I would try to nitpick sometimes, but in this case, I really just wanted to know what the white spikes looked like.
Yeah.
As did most of the other people.
Yeah. So this is where it's I don't really think it's a nitpick to say that I was frustrated. I liked where they were heading with you had to be dead in the future. The problem is they said that there's only 500,000 people left in the future. There's 500,000 people left, which means that pretty much everyone in the past is dead in the future. So to me, them sending certain people back for laughs, like the big fat guy or the one lady who clearly had no business being there, Gail the snail
Chloe from 24.
Gail the snail from It's Always Sunny, even better. It just didn't make any sense to me, and that's really what they were going for, is that they were so desperate that they could only send back the people that were already dead. It makes literally zero sense. They should have been sending back soldiers. I personally, when I saw this movie's plots online a few years ago, to me, I thought they were going back to get soldiers from every timeline. So Samurai, World War. It would have been so good to see. You could have had J.K. Simmons from World War II with a Chris Pratt from Vietnam. I thought that was the movie that they should have made. So it was a little disappointing with the whole.
That's an incredible movie idea.
Yeah, we can just rip off of this and make that movie.
It's clearly okay to plagiarize in Hollywood. We can do anything we want, and Superman can be in it too. How about
Spoiler alert? That's actually the plot of Fast and the Furious 11. Sorry, Jeff. Time travel has been introduced.
It's coming. It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming for sure. But no, overall, as far as the setup, I'll touch on one last thing before we kind of get into the meat and potatoes of it. The soccer scene, it was too soon into the movie for me. It takes place about 4 minutes into this movie. This movie's 2.5 hours long. I really thought it could have used maybe opening with the future to show us how much shit they're in the future. Any sort of establishing it just happened too quick for me. Like, the setup is so quick and the movie's so long. They could have used that time more efficiently, I felt.
I agree.
But let's move into Act 2, pretty much right when they time travel. Basically, the whole extraction mission, the introduction to the White Claws. What did you think of Act 2 and how it introduced these monsters?
It was as terrifying as I thought it would be, and I was thinking, this is very A Quiet Place 2, a very Cloverfield, like you said, those types of creatures. I thought it was insane when we find out that the white spikes are called the white spikes because they shoot terrifying white spikes out of their tentacles.
Oh, like coming.
With such force that they knock people down. So they took the horror up a little bit more because of that. Not only could they eat your face, but they could just shoot you from far away as well. So that's probably why a lot of the less or more traditional means of fighting monsters, which would be guns, from long distance or planes, weren't as good at killing these things. So it made them seem scarier and tougher to me from that. So when they do time travel, I thought it was was it a mistake? Because people were falling out of the sky. It was crazy to me.
Also,
that this is how they send people in. But
let's be clear: if you fell from 300 feet into a swimming pool, you'd be dead. But
it's like hitting concrete. Yes.
Yeah. and your feet would hit the concrete on the bottom of the pool.
Definitely. But yeah, those types of things. Again, I was just trying to ignore more so just to find out kind of. What are these creatures? Let's get into the real bits here. I was just trying to put a lot of that stuff aside. And again, I was still entertained because in between that part, we also have the banter and the introduction to some new characters who are funny and awkward and definitely have no place being there, which also was another plot point I did was that the fact that we have to send these amateurs back with just the very, very basic training. We know we're going to have a body count here, and it's going to be pretty serious. And it was everybody except one person who made it back. So it's definitely crazy. So Act 2 kind of ramps it up. You get introduced the actual white spikes and see this is a scary ride we're going here.
Yeah, so for me, this is the strongest point of the movie, this 30-minute section on the first time travel. I thought it was really well done. This is where the cinematography really hit home for me. And to me, this is the movie I wanted to see. I would have preferred that the entire movie take place in this part of the movie. I think if there's one thing this writer did, he had a lot of good ideas, and he pushed them together to make what he thought was a movie. But in reality, I think you have 2 or 3 movies in this universe all
Definitely.
taking place, and I think that's what really hurts the next act, and then the finale, which is technically act 3. But just those next 2 big action set pieces I thought were hurt because they could have been their own films basically in this universe. And I think this one movie with you end with the reveal that it's his daughter that sent him back, I think I would have been totally fine with that. But yeah, this is by far the strongest part. As I complained earlier about some of the actors that they sent back in time, they are really good in this scene, and they all justify being there. And I just really enjoyed everything that was going on, especially the White Spikes. I thought they were perfectly introduced. They kept them scary for as long as possible. And again, I really enjoyed those shots where it would. The camera would be looking straight at Chris Pratt as he moved through this corridor in this building. I just thought it was really, really well done. And let's move into the next act. So, end of this act, we get the reveal that his daughter is the one that sent him back in time, as well as finding out that there is a queen White Spike that they have to create some sort of, I don't even know what you call it, but some sort of scientific poison to kill her. That way it somehow kills them all. But what did you think of this act 2, especially with the water raid from all the White Spikes?
Man, I thought this was the end of the movie.
Yeah, it should have been.
With Chris Pratt's. So basically, Chris Pratt has a bracelet that says you're going back in 7 days from the time his first jump. They get through that cityscape act and get out to the main base where they actually have all the time travel equipment. And it starts to be overrun by the White Spikes in very, very large fashion because they have captured a female actual White Spike. And as it's leading up to Chris Pratt finally going back to his time, I thought, again, this was the end of the movie. I thought the performance of his daughter, Miri, by Yvonne Strahovski was fantastic. She was really good. I think we have a very bright future for her, and whatever she's been in so far, I've definitely enjoyed.
Yeah.
And then this is where I think it's the best action of the whole movie, for sure. Obviously, you do get like little bits and pieces when they're doing the extraction mission, but this one is a full-on battle. The CGI is great. Like I said before, you get these like drone shots of drones shooting these White Spikes off of the tower. Like really, really cool. And I thought the CGI was fantastic as well throughout the whole thing, and it definitely leaves you on the edge of your seat because in fine form, like a movie should end, there's a very big climax with Muri dying, but Chris Pratt going back to his time with the proper formula to kill all these things. Is it too late though? We don't know, and then we're about to find out. But I thought this was the peak of the movie for me, for sure.
Yeah, so this is where I started to have some issues with just the decisions they were making. I thought that the reveal that it was his daughter would have been much better held off because I was thinking, I was like, all right, this is probably his daughter. But the way she revealed it and then just their kind of working together, I didn't really enjoy that section of the movie too much. And I just thought that it makes no sense that she wanted the one person that would actually choose her over saving the universe or saving the planet to work with. She's like, well, I wanted you because you're the only person I could trust. That doesn't make any sense. Like she could have picked anyone else to send this back with the vials. She picked him, and like at the end, he literally I don't even know what happens. He dives after her. I don't know what he thought he was going to do. He basically commits suicide with the savior to the end of the world in his hands, and it just was like, all right, this guy's the dumbest character I've ever seen since Star-Lord punched Thanos in the head. But no, like I said, the action, though, that scene's really well done. Again, they do a good job. Even though there's a ton of White Spikes, the action never gets to the CGI Avengers Star Wars battle level where you don't really know what's going on and it's just watching a computer. They keep it realistic and they keep it grounded, with your main characters kind of working their way slowly through these corridors, and it keeps the monsters looking larger than life and not just like bugs on a screen. And that part I did really appreciate. Like I said, cinematography top-notch throughout this, but of course, I thought this was the end of the movie too, and we come to find out we had 30 minutes left, and this is really where the movie takes a huge nosedive for me, from being potentially like an 8 out of 10 great action movie to a pretty mediocre one. But what did you think of just the final scene at the ice where they find the spaceship? Basically, long story short, they go in to destroy the whole entire colony. They really don't know what they're getting into with these vials that they've created. I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, I the only thing I thought that the first 3 acts of the movie had not enough of was J.K. Simmons, because he is awesome. So luckily, even though this act, the finale, is basically the worst part of the movie, him being in it adds some brightness to it. So I'll say that. But this is where we find out a spaceship of a different species is actually transporting a colony of white spikes. Sound familiar? Maybe Alien, Prometheus, like you said. It could be a billion of these movies.
It's Prometheus.
But this was the moment I knew, okay, there's going to be a Tomorrow War 2 dealing with whoever is flying this ship, not with more white spikes. So that's what I know the next movie is going to be about. Enough said. How many more of these horrible creatures is this species carrying, and what's the new terrible thing going to be? So that's you guys are welcome. You can skip Tomorrow War 2. Kind of knew this is where it was headed. Once the female got out, somebody was going to die. I thought a lot less people died than probably should. Like J.K. Simmons is still alive, Sam Richardson's still alive, and Chris Pratt's still alive. But I don't have too much to say. They win in the end, and then we're going to have a sequel. That's really basically how it ends. That's how much I think of it.
Yeah, I'm foaming at the mouth here. I have so many issues with this finale. If you know me, Eric Russo, you know that I love a good ending. A good ending can overcome a bad movie, and I'm all on board. And vice versa, I can be all in on a movie, and then if a TV show or ending of the movie makes no sense or stinks, I lose all hope. The fact that I still gave this movie a 6.5 out of 10 should tell you how strongly I felt about the other 80% of the movie, like we both mentioned. But I have a couple issues with this ending, and you can call them nitpicks but I don't really think you can. My first is the whole point of making the vial was to kill the queen, right? That was the whole point of it. So when they get to the spaceship, they see the queen, and they decide to start with her minions. Like, instead of even knowing that she's the key to everything, let's save her for last, because that makes a lot of sense. So that's issue number one. Wolf, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving.
Keep moving.
All right. Issue number 2. So they have these vials. This was the whole purpose of the movie, that they needed these vials to basically kill these creatures and keep them from, it looks like, having babies and so on and so forth, right? But then they don't end up using the vials. They end up blowing up the spaceship to kill all of the aliens anyway. So my thought was, why didn't they just blow up the spaceship from the beginning, and then they would have never needed the vials? I understand that obviously in the future they didn't know that there was a spaceship there that they could go blow up. Sure. But once they figured out that there is a spaceship, blow it up, movie over, Queen never escapes. We don't have to watch Chris Pratt box an alien like Ivan Drago, Rocky IV. Again, did not like that decision.
I'm still laughing at foaming at the mouth. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I've literally been waiting, because this is one of the I watched it, and then after I was like, oh no, I can't. Problem number 3 is that this is to the point that if a 7th grade student turned in this paper for the screenplay for this movie, the teacher would expel the student, because he'd say, this is the movie Prometheus. You stole this entire thing from Prometheus. And that movie, the professor would be like, I watched that last night, so I know. This movie just came out. The humanoids in Tomorrow War look exactly like the engineers in Prometheus. They are flying with cargo to destroy Earth, which is literally the plot of Prometheus. The cargo looks exactly like it does in the movie Prometheus on the spaceship. I was so upset that was what they did. I thought someone was messing with me. I'm one of the biggest fans of Alien, so pay your respects to one of the greatest movies of all time. Not Prometheus, the original Alien. I will say one thing I did like that they kind of foreshadowed or paid their respects to was The Thing, the movie The Thing with Kurt Russell, one of my all-time favorite horror movies, one of the best movies ever made, period. This just the overall shot that it showed of the spaceship under ice was the exact shot from the movie The Thing. I'm okay with stuff like that because that's just paying homage and paying respects. This was boldly, flat out copying the plot of another movie, and like I said, you can take certain things, but you can't do that, especially a movie that came out 9 years ago. I just can't get down with it. And that's it. And then the last issue I had with the finale was, like I said, the white spikes, while incredible looking, looked absolutely terrible on the white backdrop of the snow. You couldn't see what was going on. Other than that, I really liked the movie, though. But that's really all I have for it.
There we go.
Any final thoughts for the movie tomorrow?
No, like I said, I would suggest if you like action, if you like Chris Pratt, definitely go see it. It's worth a couple hours of your time.
Yeah, I would say turn it off right when they get to the snow scene, or just go watch Prometheus. Otherwise, you will enjoy this if you like Chris Pratt. Fun movie, good action overall. And let's just talk real quick before we wrap this up. Tomorrow War 2. Is that where you think this movie goes as far as dealing with the humanoid creatures? And have you seen Alien Covenant? Because they do touch on that. So
I have not seen Alien Covenant, and I haven't seen Prometheus since it released in theaters. So
sure.
I'm way out of that. But Aliens, even Alien 3 has its place. Just kidding. I was totally joking. Alien Resurrection, that's a good one. I don't see anywhere else it could go.
Sure.
Because unless there's something else with time travel that they got to do, that's really the only other spot I think it could go.
So yeah, so where I think we will head with this is obviously because they killed the aliens in the past, they have now changed the future. They will still be inventing time in the future, but I think what will happen is because they destroyed this whole colony, it will send out distress signals to whoever created them as well as the creatures themselves, and they will make their way to Earth, eventually making their way there 30 years in the future. Thus, they have to go forward in time once again to stop this alien threat, whoever sent them there originally. So once again,
kind of like the river always corrects itself. You throw a rock in, creates some ripples, but then it just goes right back to free flowing.
Yeah, like the butterfly effect. I think that's what we're talking about.
It's inevitable
with Ashton Kutcher. But yeah, no, I actually will be excited to see the sequel just because I think now that they've played in the sandbox, these characters, they know what they're doing, and I think the sequel has more potential than this one, provided they don't copy the plot of Alien Covenant, which already touched on all of this. So that's all I got. Wolf, anything else?
That is it for me.
All right, so last thing for the day, we really appreciate everybody continuing to listen. This was a longer episode, so we appreciate you staying with us till the end. Next week, we will heavily focus on your thoughts on Loki. So special week coming up. So this Thursday, we will release the Loki finale. So typically, we're releasing every Monday. Loki comes out Wednesday for the finale. We want to get you our breakdown as soon as humanly possible. So Thursday, Loki-centric, Loki special episode coming to you. Next Monday, we're back as normal with our regular scheduled episodes. So send us your comments on Loki, and next Monday, we will break your comments, your questions down. If you guys want to send us a voice memo, we will let you actually appear on the podcast, and we will react to it. But thank you so much for listening, and we will see you Thursday.
Later.